What is up, dudes and dudettes? This is the one and only Who Dat Davis here for you. And if you don't know, you will know that over here we bleed black and gold until we are dead and cold. Back with some more news, updates, and rumors you need to hear about your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Make sure you hit that like button, you hit that big subscribe button, and you hit that notification bell so you never miss a single moment when your boy goes live with new content. Let's get right down with the breakdown. First up, we're going to be talking about Kenny Stills and why I believe he needs to be on the New Orleans Saints active roster going forward this week. The New Orleans Saints recently just restructured wide receiver Tre'Quan Smith's contract to create as much as $1 million in cap space, which, adding on to what they have already, is just enough to sign Kenny Stills to the active roster. Now, there is no report that this will happen, but it is a pretty clear indication that they may go in this direction. And honestly, it's a better move than what they got right now. The New Orleans Saints so far are dead last, in total yards per game and total offense per game. That means, even though the first game was a little misleading because the Saints rushed for nearly 200 yards in the first game and the offensive line was horrible in the second game. This is not very I would say a good spot for the New Orleans Saints going forward, because teams are going to look at this data, they're going to look at this information, and then they're going to plan accordingly. So how do you make sure you have a means to combat this? You have got to get a legitimate number 2 receiver on your active roster. Kenny Stills in 2019 posted 40 receptions for 561 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. Even though that's not his typical Kenny Stills numbers from the days we've known him back in the fresh city of New Orleans, Kenny Stills in his worst is still better than a handful of our current receivers at their best, including Tre'Quan Smith, who is not only on IR, but has yet to post a single season over 500 yards. Kenny Stills would be an instant upgrade over 75% of the current weapons the New Orleans Saints have. So if you add that with Michael Thomas, who's coming back very soon after the bye week, which is coming up very quickly, you add that with Marquez Callaway, who can take advantage of the 3 or even the number 2 corners, add Tre'Quan Smith in there and Deontay Harris in the slot, you have a pretty serviceable receiving core aside from Chris Hogan or little Jordan Humphrey. But what are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you believe Kenny Stills should be on its active roster sooner rather than later? Let me know down in the comment section below. Next, we're going to be talking about this injury report today for the New Orleans Saints. The injury report itself is honestly pretty good, with a number of DBs and defensive players as a whole coming back to the forefront of the Saints defense as reinforcements, whereas defensive back PJ Williams to defensive back CJ Gardner-Johnson, and even linebacker second round draft pick Pete Werner. And honestly, let's talk about Pete Werner for a second. Now, Pete Werner played will linebacker during his time in Ohio State, and you guys know I've talked about him being similar in terms of skill set to Luke Kuechly. I've compared him to be a baby Luke Kuechly, as a matter of fact, and I still believe that to this day. I believe, personally, that linebacker Pete Werner should start over linebacker Zach Bond. Now, some of you are probably wondering, but he's a rookie. He still needs time to get acclimated and all that. I understand that, but this is going to go into why I believe Pete Werner should start over Zach Bond in this game versus the New England Patriots, starting with their running backs. The running backs for the New England Patriots consist of Damian Harris, and receiving back James White. You know how badly Zach Bond played against Christian McCaffrey, the dual threat of the Carolina Panthers. Not just in man-to-man coverages, but poor technique, being flat-footed, and vacating his zone, opening up throwing lanes that gives Saints worse field position. For example, the 2nd and 20 after a holding call generated by first-round draft pick Payton Turner. I backed him up 10 yards, bam. Sam Darnold completes a 19-yard reception over the middle of the field to tight end Dan Arnold, who had a pretty decent game. He didn't have a good game, but he played decently He kept ahead of the stakes for the Carolina Panthers, and that's mainly due in part to Zach Bond vacating his zone, showing poor technique, relying too heavily on looking at the receiver's eyes and not staying in the zone, and he got caught slipping against Christian McCaffrey. You just can't have that. And the receiving threats of Damian Harris and James White, you don't want a team, giving up those type of yardages or leverages to running backs, especially a guy like Mac Jones, who, although is averaging 4.4 yards per play, he's still making accurate decisions, making good decisions with the football with every game that he plays. And under Bill Belichick will make you pay. So the New Orleans Saints, Dennis Allen, they need to game plan accordingly. You can put Pete Warner in those positions against running backs, even against tight ends. Hunter Henry, he's good enough against him. Jonnu Smith, we'll have to see about that. He's a little more athletic than Hunter Henry at this point in their respective careers. And lastly, there's one more designation to this list, and that is first-round draft pick Payton Turner, who I mentioned just a couple seconds ago. First-round draft pick Payton Turner is limited so far this week with an elbow injury. Jeff Nowak, at Jeff Nowak on Twitter, posted a graph, an image of Payton Turner wearing a brace on his left elbow. And we've seen, a couple of defensive ends around the league wear that brace on their elbows, such as J.J. Watt, sometimes T.J. Watt, Marcus Davenport on his right elbow. So if they can play with that brace on their elbows, it'll just depend on how severe that elbow injury is. But it doesn't look like it's going to impair his performance, but it will most likely cut into his snap count to make sure he doesn't suffer an injury. Even though the Tampa passing unit is coming back as a full participant, you want to have your defensive ends healthy as long as possible, because it's a marathon, not a sprint in this 17-game, 18-week season. That's it. That's all for right now. That's all the news. That's all the rumors. It's all the info that I have for you, New Orleans Saints fans. What do you guys think of everything so far? I believe that Kenny Stills is an upgrade, but do you believe he's an upgrade at this stage of his career over the likes of Lil Jordan Humphrey or Chris Hogan? What do you guys think about this brace on Payton Turner's elbow, and do you believe it'll limit his ability to be productive after his strong NFL debut last week against the Panthers? What do you guys think about the injury report? Are there any names you want to see be listed as a full participant? Let me know in the comment section, and any other thoughts you have. I'm looking forward to discussing it with you, and as always, it's black and gold until we are dead and cold. Check you guys out next time.
The word is unstoppable. The word is unstoppable. You are unstoppable. You know why? Because you've been equipped. Look inside. You've been equipped with everything you need to be the force you need. I am